Welcome to Speak Your Mind. My name is Callum. On my left we have Ostea and Sam, and on my right Amore. And we did have Jake the other day. Unfortunately, he isn't with us in the studio at the moment.
You will see him in other clips anyway, so don't worry, he's still with us.
This is a podcast designed for all sports people.
Yeah, and we'll be talking today about challenge and threat states, especially during competition.
Yep. So we should get on to the definitions, which Amore will take over in the other clips.
Let's define what it is.
Yeah, right. So, challenge state is basically when a person perceives a certain task or situation as possible to succeed in. Therefore, they're like, oh, "Okay, I'll do it." Although it might be difficult or demanding, but it's still possible for them to succeed.
A threat state is a task which can feel unbearable and impossible to be able to actually go on and actually achieve what you want to achieve in that sporting situation.
Yeah, and then you might feel threatened or just
Threatened by the
scared of it.
Yeah.
And possibly make your performance worse, I guess. We'll see.
So,
Could be.
yeah, why do you think it's important to have an understanding of these states?
Because, well, if you understand it, then you can kind of train yourself and prepare yourself for when you do go into a competition or event to be in the correct mindset so you can perform better. And
also by knowing the different states, you can feel yourself slipping into that state. Might be a good trigger point to then try and
redirect yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Try and use some methods to stop yourself from getting into that.
Which
state.
we'll talk about later.
We'll talk about later.
And also, if you know you do that in competitions, you might get into your training, which we would also go into.
Yeah. Alright, Callum, so which state is preferred one in competitions?
Well, challenge is usually preferred. There was a systematic review done in 2018 here at the University of Essex by Hayes, and they reviewed 38 papers, of which 74% came out saying that a challenge state was preferred and had a better outcome.
That's a big number.
Yeah. Whereas only one of the papers suggested a threat state was better, and the other 9, there was no really significant difference between them.
Right.
Why do we think that would be the outcome?
You mean
why it's like that's the outcome?
more to challenge state?
Yeah.
Right, I mean, there's like a biopsychosocial model that was designed by Blaskovich, if I'm correct.
Yeah, Blaskovich, yeah.
Yeah. Anyone wants to? There are several interventions that actually cover challenge and threat states, but for the sake of this podcast, we chose biopsychosocial model. As the name suggests, it consists of 3 parts: biological, psychological, and social. As an example, I can give an athlete turns up to the competition, but the starting time was delayed, which would be social factor. That may confuse the athlete and trigger anxiety due to feeling loss of control, which would be psychological bit. Therefore, body reacts to it, and athlete feels their legs numb, and also they would feel dizzy, which would be biological bit. When all these factors interfere with each other, it suggests that then athlete perceive the situation as challenged or threatened. Although it's worth mentioning that athlete has to be motivated to perform in that situation, or that situation should be important to them, because only then they can occur according to this model. More importantly, motivation has a huge impact on actually feeling threatened or challenged, because as the biopsychosocial model suggests, these feelings wouldn't even occur if a person isn't interested in the situation and doesn't put any effort in it.
But you actually need to be motivated by the outcome to be either challenged or threatened by the situation you're in.
Yeah, because otherwise you wouldn't feel like anything. It's not important to you.
Yeah.
And we discussed this quite strongly on our last attempt which we'll clip into now.
Challenge. Do you actually feel challenged or threatened?
Or threatened to feel you? Yeah, okay.
But if you're motivated in
I'm motivated to I'm motivated to swim, right? I'm motivated to hit like new world record, and I'm like, okay, that's my task. That's my time to actually try to hit it. And then I'm like, oh, can I actually? And now I'll feel threatened. Or like, I can do it. I've trained for ages for it.
If you're threatened by it, then why?
But you're still motivated.
Because you want to do good.
Yeah.
So like, if it.
But we said earlier that threatened was the feeling of being overwhelmed that it's an impossible task.
Yeah, but it's because
so surely that would decrease your motivation.
No, it won't.
No, because
if
you're not motivated to do
like
something,
you problem.
if you've got no motivation to do something, then there's gonna it's gonna have no impact.
Yeah.
You're not gonna feel anything.
So it's like even like
okay.
when we had to put tea bags in, like what was the point? You know, we had like challenge and threats. It's like I'm just like throwing tea bags. Like I don't care. Like I'm not trying to be the best.
There's no pressure.
Yeah.
You don't care about the
outcome really.
Outcome, no. So there's no.
Like if you go play football and you want to impress like a scout, like that's you motivated to impress that scout.
He's challenged.
But that would be getting into a challenge state, not feeling threatened. Oh, but
if you're not
going to feel any
pressure,
it's just like you not being threatened, okay?
I know you're not threatened by anything, but for some of us, that like if I want to if a scout comes to watch me play tennis, for example. And I want to do so well, I would put so much pressure on myself, and I will perceive it as a threatened state.
So you have to
because
work
I'm so motivated to like.
So you've kind of gone into a false positive.
And because you care about that sport.
Hey,
exactly.
Yeah, you want to.
I want to do well.
You want to do well. It's your motive
to do. If I was unmotivated, I would be like, don't care. I don't even want to be here. So nothing's gonna like threaten or challenge me.
Yeah. Right.
It's kind of like that. Similarity with the inverted U theory.
Exactly.
You went too far.
Yeah.
And then your performance just dropped.
Yeah, because I've
put too much pressure.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah. If I could give you all a situation. So, if you could just imagine yourself in a situation, okay, in your respective sports. Say there's a large crowd. All right, this the opposition crowd. They're loud. They're shouting at you. They're shouting at the referee, and they're trying to distract you. How would you feel? Would you feel threatened, or would you feel challenged? And I'll ask you on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being you're very threatened, and on 5 you're feeling very challenged.
So I play football, and with the crowd, I'd probably say I'd feel around. Is it 1's challenged, right?
1's threatened.
Threatened.
Yeah,
okay. So I'd probably feel around a 4.
Okay.
So slightly challenged, but also depending on like what event it is. If it's a important game, then I could feel more challenged because of the importance of the game, and the crowd may be louder. And with the crowd being louder, I feel more challenged to perform better.
Even if it's against you?
Yeah.
Okay.
You did say the opposite crowd.
Yeah.
True. Right, so my sport is different because mine is individual instead of it being a team sport, and I actually never had to experience the crowd pressure that much because it's usually me against others, but like I probably haven't been in such big competition to be so pressurized of it. But generally I do feel kind of threatened if it's really important competition to me anyway. But just before I get into the water, when I get in, everything is gone and I just know what I'm doing and that's it.
Talking about my own experience as a basketball player, I feel the same as Sam. I like the idea of the crowd shouting.
Yeah.
More so in the first half, because the game hasn't been decided yet. Yeah. But when it does get to the clutch moments, as we call it, so in the fourth quarter, close games, I just want to be hearing my coach and my teammates. But if I'm hearing the crowd, especially if there's been a comeback or something, that can feel very threatening. So yeah, dependent on the game, but I would say I invite the challenge to start with, but I will feel threatened later in.
Yeah. So I play tennis, and like if you go to tournaments and people watch, they usually like try to get the games to go on longer. So they would switch between like who they actually like supporting.
That's a weird one.
It's so weird,
Yeah.
but it's funny. So when they support you, you're like, yeah, this is like, it's
And then you do
fun.
well, and then they switch.
And then you do well, and like it just starts becoming like quite so you're challenged, and then it just becomes threatening. But it's like if it's the opponent's like team or their friends, then I'm like, oh, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
But then if it's like, imagine my family just screaming for the other person. It's like, God, okay, they don't love me anymore. That's threatening. But yeah, so it depends really, because like it's just such a weird crowd. Like it's a weird environment to be in.
I can't imagine.
So you would say with Callum, you
Yeah,
would
basically.
feel challenged and threatened in the same.
Yeah. Because they've changed this
So
environment
first
around
you feel
the whole
challenged,
time.
and like when it goes on, it might threaten you after.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of vice versa, I guess.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, I like proving people wrong.
Okay, that's good.
So,
What about you?
I personally agree with Callum and Sam in the sense of I find it a good challenge.
Yeah.
I need to have people on my back to get up for it.
Yeah.
If there's nothing at all, I don't feel anything. I play cricket, or I have played cricket most of my sort of career, and one of the big parts of cricket is like you get a lot of talk between both teams. So
The wicket keeper.
yeah, you get a lot of chirping. So it's you naturally you build up this resilience.
Yeah.
So like you don't really feel you actually feel like it's weird if it doesn't happen. So particularly if you get in the crowd on your back, you're like, okay, this is fine. This is quite fun and you play with it. And then if you're fielding in a team, it's particularly like a short 20-20 game, if you're on the boundary,
Yeah.
and you've got a fan giving you a load of stick, it's quite funny. But then it can get obviously turn into a threat when, you know, maybe if you misfield one and it goes for 4, and then you're thinking, oh crikey. But
Yeah, if it comes back to you again.
exactly, then you're thinking, oh no, I don't want the ball to come. That's where it can get a little bit. But particularly for me as a bowler, I would quite like someone having a go at me.
with a little chirp now and then.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's quite interesting how it varies among players and different sports.
Yeah, and that's an obvious like difference. Like everyone, like we gave the same situation. Like everyone kind of have their own,
views.
their own like view on it.
Yeah.
And that's the same like with every single situation. Therefore, like some people, as we talked, like the time was delayed. Some of them would be like, okay, I have more time to actually prepare for it, and they get into more like challenge state, I guess.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Some of them like, oh, what should I do with this time? Like I was already prepped.
Because we're saying about, well, still similar around the mindset area with.
Yeah, so there's loads of research into free throws and routines and mental imagery, and what do they call it? Centering, when you get your breathing right.
Oh,
Bridge
Yeah.
techniques.
Yeah, so it's something that we don't necessarily focus on too much for our team, but it's something that at the beginning of the season we will mention and say how important a routine is.
Okay.
Because if as you said, once you get into the pool, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Once you get into the routine, you know what you're doing. That's the mindset.
We also try to increase the anxiety a athlete may be feeling for free throws. We try to replicate this by getting them to run if they miss, and getting the rest of the team to run with them. This doesn't replicate the game anxiety exactly, but it is the best way we've found in a training environment to increase this anxiety. And because of this intervention, I believe it has improved our team's free throw percentage, as we're currently sitting second in the league for free throw percentage.
Do you not think though, like everyone, like particular athletes are just built a certain way?
Yeah.
So if you are going to get threatened by taking a penalty, you're just not going to be able to take a penalty.
No.
Right.
Well, it's
But I think
what
you
we
work
see.
on it though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can work on
obviously
it. Like there
work on
are loads of interventions.
Because
on
you will
it.
have
Yeah.
you will have times which literally just happened yesterday in the Carabao Cup final,
Yeah.
where you will have penalties go all the way to the goalkeepers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even the goalkeepers
They
have
have
to
to
at
work,
some
yeah.
point have to be doing the opposite of what they usually do on the penalty and actually take the penalty and put it in the back of the net.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what determined the win or lose
Yeah,
between Chelsea and Liverpool.
luckily.
Exactly.
Right, so we covered actually as examples 2 interventions. One of them was task instructions, promotion, control, and approach the goals, which we're talking about routine, which is done by Turner. And the other one was training with anxiety by Nguyen Huys. No idea how to pronounce that, so I'm really sorry. It's done in 2011.
There's no way.
I'll put that on the screen for you.
Right, besides that, I feel like we're done.
I think we've covered everything we need to.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us today. This has been Speak Your Mind, and we'd like to say thank you very much to Rebel Radio for having us, and also to the University of Essex. So thank you very much. We'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey.
I need to go to the toilet so bad.